Hi, welcome to the latest installment of the video chronicles of Irish ancestors, the website and the people. Today, I'm going to be talking about one of the most important Irish census substitutes, a property record, land record called the Tithe Applotment Books. So, as usual, I'm going to take the jumping off point as the site, and most of what I'd say is there in text in the free section of the site. So let's go there now. Here we are at the site. We go into the browse section, the records, property and valuations, and the Tithe Applotment Books. This describes how they came about. Let me just briefly, before I can do anything else, I'm going to have to describe what these damn things are. They are records created by the process of collecting tithes by the Church of Ireland. Okay, the Church of Ireland was the state church, it was the established church, so everybody was obliged to pay tithes to support the clergymen. As you can well imagine, this was not very popular amongst the 85% of the population who weren't members of the Church of Ireland, to be paying this tax to support the clergy of another church, but they were legally obliged to do it. The tithe was initially, I think it was 10% of your your crop, your harvest. At the end of the 18th century, the beginning of the 19th century, the Church of Ireland clergy agitated to have that transmuted into a monetary equivalent. Okay, and eventually, in 1823, an act was passed to allow them to do that. In order to turn those agricultural bits of 10% of the agricultural produce into money, they had to value everybody who was due to pay them tithes, every piece of land, and work out exactly how much the land was worth, and then on that basis work out what the tithe would be. So they are surveys of people who were liable to pay tax to local Church of Ireland clergy. They were carried out by the local Church of Ireland clergy in association with specialist valuers, but the clergy themselves were responsible for creating the Tithe Applotment Books. They were created between 1823, when the Act was passed. There were a few sharp clergymen well out of the blocks as soon as the starting gun went. Others were a bit more lethargic about it. And they continued up to 1838, when tithes were finally abolished. And as you can imagine, the whole business about Catholic emancipation, about property rights, this was a big thorn in the side of the administration of Ireland, the part of the United Kingdom that was Ireland. So eventually the tithes were abolished in 1838, and Catholic emancipation of a sort took place, and so on. But the tithe books had been created at that stage. For almost all of Ireland, they record where people were living, how much land they were occupying, and what the land was worth in terms of notional annual income. So a bit like Griffith's valuation, but done for a sectarian tax, in effect. There's a couple of implications there. First of all, only people who are occupying land are recorded. So anybody in a town, anybody in a city, anybody who was not in occupation of agricultural land is omitted straight away, because the tithes were on agricultural produce and the monetary equivalent was only on people who were in possession of agricultural land. Even the people in possession of agricultural land, there were all sorts of exemptions. Then, as now, people like to find ways around taxes. So the various historic exemptions have been granted over the years. So they record perhaps 40% of the population. So nothing like the near 95% that you get with Griffiths. It's a much smaller proportion. The real value of the tithe books is that they are from 1823 to 1838. And we burnt all our censuses, 1821, 31, 41, and 51. So basically, they're the only comprehensive census substitute covering virtually the entire island for that particular time period. That's why they're important. Okay. That much said, they're actually pretty hard to use. They're very, very uninformative. They give you a name, they give you an exact date when they were in occupation of a land. They don't tell you anything about family relationships, about households. It's just literally a name. So sometimes you can connect that name to a parish register. Sometimes it's good circumstantial evidence for an earlier generation. But in most cases, all it ever is really is circumstantial evidence. Okay. All right. The tithe books, where are they and how do you get at them? The tithe books weren't in the Public Record Office in 1922. They were still with, I think, the Irish Church Commissioners, and they were deposited with the Public Record Office after 1922. They were then divided almost immediately between areas in the Republic of Ireland and areas in what was then Northern Ireland. So immediately, all the 6 counties of Antrim, Armagh, Fermanagh, Tyrone, Derry, Down, they all went north to the Public Record Office of Northern Ireland. And that's important because a lot of the digitized versions that you'll find online are only of the southern ones, the 26 counties. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that they were stored in bundles, alphabetical by parish name, not by county. So why is that important? Because the microfilms, again, the LDS Church, the Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, microfilmed these records in the 1950s in what was then the Public Record Office, now the National Archives of Ireland. And they microfilmed the bundles, and then afterwards the microfilms were sorted into counties and so on. They missed a bundle. Okay, there's somewhere between the letter B and the letter F, there's a bundle of parishes that haven't been microfilmed and therefore haven't been transcribed and therefore aren't online, at least not on the main source online. So you can see immediately there's all sorts of, apart from the fact that they're not that great as a record themselves, there's all sorts of problems about getting access to them. And that's not the only, wait, there's more. Let me take you to what is the main source of access that people have to it now. And that's the National Archives of Ireland genealogy website, the Tithe Applotment Books. Okay. It gives you a brief summary of the records, basically what I've been telling you. It doesn't mention that it's only the Republic of Ireland, but anyway, the transcription that you're going to be searching, if you click here to search, like so, is a transcription carried out by LDS volunteers. And for some reason, normally the LDS transcription procedures are pretty watertight. They're good, they're double-checked and cross-referenced and so on. Not in this case. They are pretty awful, I have to say. Okay, you can browse them. One of the main use that I find for them is to actually go in and browse the parish by browse. You can go through them like this, and you have the townlands, and you can go in and look, and this is what they look like. Let's go in. There, this is Clare Abbey. Let's go in a little bit more. And you see the kind of thing it is. It's, you get a place name, you get the tenants' names, it's valued, divided into various subdivisions of quality, and you get the amount, the rectorial tithe. You can see this is, so John Carroll Esquire owes £1.12 to the rector. Again, if you wanted to, this is the equivalent of looking at a microfilm. And like most of the microfilms on the National Archives website, there's no forward or back button. So you have to manipulate what I'm doing here. You see 00191. If I change that 1 to a 2, I go on to the next page. And here we are on the next page. So you can, this is basically I don't trust the transcriptions. This is the best way to use them. Okay, I don't trust the transcriptions. Let me give you an example of what might happen. I'm going to pick, that's the search. I'm going to pick the county of Mayo, the parish of Knock. Okay, the reason I'm doing this is that when these transcriptions first went on, Nala Gamurla, a very distinguished academic who has ancestors in Mayo, searched for the surname Flatley in, well, let's make it a bit more ambiguous and use, one of the good things about this is that you can use wildcards in any of the fields apart from the county. So, and that's very important because the parish names are spelt peculiarly, the townlands are mistranscribed, the surnames are mistranscribed, but Flatley's in Knock in Mayo, there are at least 15 of them there. And he wrote to me, why me? Okay, but he wrote to me anyway, indignantly, that they were there as Flatty, Fatty, Slatly, an infinite number of mistranscriptions. Let's see what comes up here, okay? And there are only 5. Okay, so there's at least 7 it's not picking up. And you can see that the format in terms of the search result is pretty simple. Let's have a look at this John Flatley in Lecaro. And there's Lecaro and Lecaro, John Flatley and Company. Again, this is one of the things about the Tithe books. John Flatley is sort of the lead of a group of people who are occupying this property together. They don't list everybody. They just list the one guy that they're going to go after for the tithe. So there's John Flatley in Lecaro. Okay. There is another copy of these transcribed tithe books for the Republic of Ireland, okay, for the 26 counties, and it's on ancestry.com. This is it here. It is taken again from the National Archives microfilms, I think at a point where they weren't quite sure of the copyright implications. So they had access to a copy of the microfilms and they transcribed, but there are no images. So you can't use the Ancestry one the way you can use the National Archives copy to go through them page by page and search them by hand. But let's just see what Flatley in Knock in Mayo produces from the Ancestry transcript. There are 3. Okay. No John, no Lecaro. Okay, so sup with a very long spoon. One of the good things about the Ancestry one is that their surname variants are much more developed. Well, there are surname variants. There aren't any in the other one. So that the surname variants are here. But don't take what you're getting as gospel, okay? Go and look at the originals on the National Archives website. What about the ones in Northern Ireland, I hear you say at the back? They're in the Public Record Office in Northern Ireland. You have to go in there and call them up to search them. There are some transcripts online on the commercial website, rootsireland.ie. And okay, they're not complete for the whole of Northern Ireland. They're complete for County Derry, for County Down, I think, County Fermanagh, I think, County Tyrone, I think. Let me just show you why I'm saying I think to all of these. So for Tyrone, online sources, we go down to the bottom, early 19th century tithe books, 40,000 records. What parishes? Who knows? Okay, so these records have not been treated either by the LDS or the Ancestry or indeed by the National Archives with the respect they deserve, and they are full of problems. But as I say, they're there. They are they don't have the images. Let me see if, well, just to demonstrate this to you. Okay, no image, text only collection, but they're transcribed from the microfilms, which means again they have the same flaw as the National Archives collection in missing this bundle because the bundle wasn't microfilmed, so it's not in the transcripts. So the same missing parishes, and the one great advantage of this one is that you have the microfilm. You can go back and forth to it. You can add or subtract numbers. You can search it by hand. There are all sorts of reasons why the transcripts are not good. Some of the things are written perpendicular. Some of them are smudged, very smudged. In some of them, you can see there are annotations. So they're quite complex documents, and it's always a good idea to look at the originals. Anyway, I hope I've managed to convince you of two things. First of all, that these records are pretty problematic, and secondly, that they're the only things there for most particularly small tenant farmers in the 1820s and 1830s. So they can be useful, but you need to be very careful about using them. Again, there's a certain element of bottom of the barrel about using the tithe books, but as I've said before, the bottom of the barrel is where an awful lot of Irish genealogy takes place. Anyway, I hope I've managed to tell you something you didn't know, and I wish you good luck in your hunt. Bye. Thanks for watching.